On the Radio is brought to you by Zurich Insurance, the perfect place to catch up with all things Melbourne. If you enjoy this content and want more inside access from the team, make sure you visit the club website.
Great to be with you on Summer Breakfast for the very last time. Nick Del Santo and Jack Heverin, we hand the keys back over to Gary and Tim tomorrow.
We do. The seats have been kept warm, we must say that. To say if we've set a high standard or not, I'm not quite sure, but the summer flies, Jack. I just can't wait to read this team out after we get to speak to our next guest.
Yes, and a lot of your texts as well about the stuff that you bought because an athlete used them. So when you're a kid, it was a cricket bat or footy boots, whatever it may be. A few of your text messages that we haven't had a chance to get to yet. From Mark in Vermont says, I bought Mizuno gear for tennis because Ivan Lendl changed from Adidas to Mizuno.
Nice. I've almost got my favourite here, and this might bring you into a bit of a conversation. You might actually lag yourself in. Travis messaged in saying the Shane Warne Nike tick earring.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Is it true that you did something similar?
Yeah. I'm a real flog, aren't I?
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah, back in the day. Everyone had, Warney had the Nike tick in the ear.
Yeah. You're not Warney.
No, I know that, but I thought I was for some reason.
I'll join in this conversation just a tiny bit. I read a book and it was a David Beckham autobiography from the early 2000s. Went out and got 2 earrings.
2 earrings?
Yeah, I got pierced ears on both sides.
You reckon I'm the flog?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yep.
Libby Birch joins us in the studio just to try and bring some sort of sense to this conversation. For Scott Pack, turn unpaid invoices into cash. scottpack.com.au. AFLW season starting on Thursday. Demons in action on the weekend on the Gold Coast against the Suns. Libby, good morning.
Good morning, boys.
Great to see you.
Yeah, happy Australia Day.
Yeah, you too. It's nice to see people in person. You're looking fantastic. How are you feeling as you get ready for another campaign? Yeah,
really excited. Obviously, last year was really interrupted with the coronavirus, and we finished up in our semi-final having won that but didn't go any further. So it only ended up being 7 games. And then obviously for Victorian teams, we didn't get to play again all year until we sort of started back in small groups and then gradually got to a full group training in early November. So it has been a really challenging year for Victorians. But yeah, really excited to have, the season starting on Thursday night and obviously playing Gold Coast on Saturday. I think we just can't wait to play again. I think one thing that COVID taught us was that we should be super grateful to be able to play because, without it, we didn't have our teammates or the game we love.
Can I ask you about the preparation? Because quite possibly you've done the longest pre-season ever. And for those, not everybody loves pre-season, Jack. But within the last, what's that make it, 10 or 12 months since your last game, have you had the fluctuations of, finding a purpose and getting yourself fit and ready to go, but then also saying, well, it's so far away, I've gone too early. How have you balanced out that both physically but also mentally? Yeah,
definitely. It's certainly been the longest pre-season I've ever done without playing a game. I think it definitely comes in its ebbs and flows, and that's just being an athlete. But I think, like, connecting with your teammates, we weren't able to do that face-to-face, obviously, but over Zooms and connecting where we could online to make sure that we were still motivated and had a purpose. But I think if we came back to how we wanted to turn up in November, it really did motivate us to want to reach our end goal, which is a premiership as the club. So I think if we came back to that, it was always the same thing, which was to train hard and get the most out of that time.
So there was no winter footy, which has been a staple for Victorian women's players. What did you do? Where did you go? Did you get away? Did you manage to beat the lockdown in Melbourne and get out of town?
Yeah, I was very lucky in that I beat the lockdown and got up to Queensland for 4 months. So I ended up getting stuck up there, which was ideal.
Jeez. What a hard life that is. What a shame.
So yeah, very, very lucky. But I didn't end up going to the gym up there, but I made my own gym in the backyard in Queensland and used some very creative ideas. I used a prop shaft as a bar and then some brake discs from the local mechanic as my little plates for the squat rack. I had a few injuries with that as well. So
black eye at one stage.
Bit of a black eye when the whole ladder system fell down on top of me, but it was all worth it.
And what did you do for work? So you've been able to get out of Victoria, which was the main challenge, and you did that successfully, and you've been unfortunately locked up there in sunny Queensland for a period of time.
Our heart bleeds for you.
How do you've lost all sympathy from Jack and I and the listeners. But how did you balance out, obviously, working, but also your study?
Yeah, so I was studying physio my last year of physio last year. So I was doing that all online from up there. And when I got back, I finished off a couple of placements in hospitals. And now I'm a fully qualified physio, and I'm actually doing some research at the moment with Brooke Patterson, who is a leading researcher in ACLs for women in football. And she's looking at this, Australia-wide study of 3,500 athletes who we're looking to prevent ACLs in community football players for women. So that's pretty cool.
Well, it's pertinent you raised that because Melbourne had 6 ACLs on your list last year, if I'm right.
Yeah. I think it was 6. It was sort of 2 before the season started, and then we had a couple throughout the season.
So try and bring some knowledge to the argument, because a lot of people don't have knowledge on this subject and they just say, oh, there's more knee injuries in women's sport. Why? Do we fully know why at this stage?
Yeah, I think the reason for this study is that we fully don't know why at a community level, and that's why we're using all these prevention and exercise that we're trying to teach the coaches at a community level to help out their athletes specifically. But I think it's a combination of female hormones. We're in a really tight preseason environment, and a lot of athletes haven't come from. It's probably better now that we've got such an amazing pathway for young athletes, but especially for those cross-coders, we haven't come from those elite environments all the time.
As you head up to the Gold Coast this weekend, what's your protocols? We've heard about the hubs, and we know that the Giants girls have been based out of Albury for a period of time, and I think it was initially told they're going to be 2 weeks, and it's been obviously a lot longer than that. What's your understanding of how this season's going to be played out? But in particularly Saturday, what do you have to do to get that game started?
Yeah, so it's really interesting this year. We'll be flying in and out of states if we're going on the day. So usually we fly out a day before and have the night, do a captain's run, and then have the night and then play the next day. But this year, because of coronavirus, we're in and out. So we fly in the morning, play at 2:00. And then fly out. So it'll be a really long day, but that's what we have to do in this day and age. And as an athlete, you just got to control what you can control and get there and play. But it'll be really interesting. And I think it'll be fun to, get on the flight with the girls, and it'll be a great experience.
Do you think we'll see more of it as the world changes, and especially in the next couple of years while budgets are still a bit tight? Do you think we'll see more of this type of fly in and fly out in a day?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's something we need to get used to. And I think we definitely need to continue to be flexible, because it could change on Friday. We might not even be playing Gold Coast. So that's going to be the nature of this season for every AFLW athlete. And obviously the AFL men's boys is that it's going to change within a blink of an eye.
Libby Birch from Melbourne joining us in the studio this morning on Summer Breakfast. It's 11 minutes past 8. So on that, you say that you're playing the Gold Coast this week, but we know how quickly things can change. How is that when you're preparing for an opposition and you're about 85% certain that you're going to play them, but there's that 10 or 15% in the back of your mind where you're wondering that things may change? How do you go about preparing for an opposition?
Yeah, it's very interesting in that respect that this year there's a lot of unknowns. So I think basically you just have to prepare for Gold Coast, and then if something comes up, you have to be pretty flexible. You have to have an open mind this year, because otherwise I think that's where teams are going to get the head start. If you are flexible and adaptable and you're not fussed by things that can change or go wrong, then you're going to get a head start when the bounce goes up.
The more I listen to you speak just now, obviously mature, and you're not that old, but the way that you're speaking is exactly the attitude that you need to have to be ultimately successful. You look at the competition this year, it's very even.
Yeah.
So the point of difference may be the mental side of it. Have you had those chats internally as a group about how to approach the year from a mental perspective with the change that could possibly happen?
Yeah, definitely. I think one example for our group, the Melbourne Football Club, is we had a game against GWS last year for our final, and the week before that we didn't actually know whether we were playing or not. And to be honest, we actually assessed that and reflected on that, and we didn't think we controlled our heads very well during that week, because a lot of us we're sort of thinking about, oh, are we playing? Are we not playing? Who are we playing? And really, at the end of the day, that's irrelevant, because when we do play, you have to be on, and you can't have wasted all that energy throughout the week thinking about all that other stuff. So I think we've learnt from that scenario, and we're going to take that knowledge into this season, knowing that all that extra outside noise is really irrelevant to what our team has to do to perform.
Let's go back a little bit to the start of the Libby Birch story with footy. Before that, you were playing netball at a really high level. You played hockey as well. Do you wish that you found footy earlier in the scheme of things? Now that you've become such a lover of it and you are so good at it, do you wish that you had have found footy at an earlier age than what you did?
Yeah, for sure. I do wish back in the day when I was sort of 5, 6 that we'd had like AFL AFLW little Oz kickers running around, which I'm sure we did. And we have those girls that really, I guess, that shine that for us in like Daisy Pearce and all those people that now we have that pathway because of those girls that have pushed so hard. But I would have loved to, I'm 23 now, I would have loved to have had that pathway growing up and knowing that I could just slip straight into that pathway and go right to the elite level. And luckily now we do have that for our girls growing up.
What was the turning point for you to get involved in football?
Yeah, I was a train-on for the Vixens for a few years and missed out on 2 Australian selections at an under-21 level. And I was, really shattered by that 2 years in a row and needed initially, it was actually just that I wanted a bit of a fitness change and wanted to try something different. I didn't think I'd love football at all. And it was Daisy Pearce who gave me her boots to wear on the first training session at the Darebin Falcons local community ground. And I absolutely fell in love with it. As soon as I got there, I looked like a netballer through and through, but they soon turned me into a footballer. So
there's no contact in netball, in footy, sorry.
Holding the ball.
What was the hardest bit to get used to? I mean, the game's obviously complicated with the fundamentals and everything that you need to learn. What was the most difficult one for you? And maybe you're still battling with that a little bit at the moment?
Yeah, I think definitely it was kicking because netball was so like hand-eye coordination. Kicking using your legs was so foreign to me. So that was something that took a lot of work. And I think many cross-coders who hadn't played football before have experienced this sort of hardship of like learning the skill of football, which all our young kids are doing from 2 years old. So I sort of had to make that up.
What about in regards to the groups? Was there anything that you were able to take from netball to bring to the Dogs at the time and now the Ds, or are they all sort of similar once you're involved in a sporting club? They're all sort of the same?
No, I think definitely I was able to take my elite training habits from netball, and because netball is an incredibly high intensity game, so I was able to take that into the environment, and also a little bit about, a team environment and how I guess some things I didn't like in netball and I was able to see and promote in footy.
How much is footy changing, the AFLW competition changing with every draft year? So just about every draftee that's come in the last 2 years that was a top 10 pick has had an impact almost straight away. And you think of Chloe Malloy, you think of Maddie Prasparkas that were high-end draft picks that have come in and dominated straight away. What's the jump been like in the standard every year with the influx of draftees?
Oh, it's absolutely incredible. The footballers that we're seeing coming through now, it just blows your mind. You can tell that these girls have been playing since they were 3 and 4 years old. And we're lucky to have 6 new draftees this year at our club. And they're all amazing, all different heights, but they all come from all different backgrounds and equally love the game of football. So that's pretty special. And we also have 3 Irish recruits that have come back. They were in lockdown for about 2 weeks and they had their first session back on Sunday. So, and they're a week before round 1.
Jeez.
Libby, what about tactically? What have you seen? I mean, we see the skill level and we see the scoring, which we're able to, it's a bit more tangible. What about tactically? What are we not seeing behind the scenes that you're seeing evolve from year to year where you think, okay, we never spoke about a particular tactic last year. Have you seen that as well? Yeah,
I think definitely as teams become more skillful and as they play together more, you're able to introduce more tactics, and I definitely think we're going to see that this year because teams have had so much time to work on their education behind their game, particularly Victorian teams who haven't actually been able to get together. They've been able to work on their stoppage crafts, like online Zooms and things like that. So it's going to be really interesting to see the tactics behind this year. I think we all have a lot more belief in our skill and we're able to, you'll see a high quality game this year.
Competition looks even. If you sit down and look at the ins and the outs for the teams and who they've got on paper, which we know doesn't necessarily translate to success, but pretty much every team looks like those who needed to improve have improved. Those who needed to stay the same have. Like, it does look like it's going to be a pretty even year this year.
Yeah, for sure. Every year with AFLW, just because of the nature of the season, it's so short. And obviously with last year, everything that's happening, I think we're very even. And I do think that it'll be the teams that turn up every week and play like it's a grand final will win. And that's the nature of the comp. It's 9 games plus finals. So you don't have any time to sort of turn up and have not a great game. There's no time for that. So I think the AFLW season will be determined above the shoulders.
Libby, before we let you go, there's a little segment on this show called The Summer Flies, which will be named in the next 15 odd minutes.
It's not.
I don't think I've been listed.
No, you haven't, because the criteria.
She seems unhappy about that.
Was the close of business on
dirty.
Friday, but we're happy to take a self-nomination.
Don't
we
you
might be able to
backtrack
find
now.
you a spot.
Might be an emergency.
It's hard when they're in the studio. Is there someone that we should be keeping an eye on, a young up-and-coming player outside of yourself that, as football lovers, or if you're a Demon supporter, you say, hey, let's keep an eye on this young lady?
Oh, we've got 6 new draftees, but I reckon it has to be Lauren McGee. She is one of the Irish girls that's just come across. They're looking super fit. They've been in hotel quarantine for 2 weeks, so they've been doing chin-ups on their little hotel bathing. So I reckon she's one to look for.
Thank you very much.
Ticks a lot of boxes.
That's exactly what we
Hey,
need.
Libby, good luck for the season. Thanks for coming in on Australia Day. We appreciate it. And it's going to be a season with challenge, no doubt, as it continues to move and we learn more about who you play next and where and what it's all going to look like. So good luck. And again, thanks for coming past today.